Hi, this is Andrew Singer from Professor Metz's X-104 class. I'm going to be talking about an interview that I had with my dad, Ron Singer, who attended Indiana University from the years 1981 to 1985. He was here when Isaiah Thomas won the NCAA championship under Bob Knight. The first question that I asked my dad in the interview was, "What messages did you receive about communication when you were younger?" In which he told me that his father taught him to never be a dominant figure. He should be more passive and to treat people the way he wanted to be treated, which was with respect. And that was the way that he taught me to communicate with other people as well. The three things that I talked about with him and that I'm going to highlight during this video about our interview was: 1, his experience at Kelly compared to mine; 2, his Greek life experience compared to mine; and 3, some basketball experiences compared to mine. So first, I'm going to talk about Kelly and the business school. When my dad was here, it was still a great program, and he was a direct admit here, and I was not a direct admit, which means when he first got here, he was already in, and obviously he had to keep his grades up. However, he was much more involved in clubs and in the community than I am, because I am in the library a lot studying and trying to get into Kelly, as opposed to already in and not having to focus heavily on my studies as he did. And this is a big change. I mean, this was a big change for me from high school to now, because during high school I was a good student, but here trying to get into Kelly is very difficult, and I've spent many hours in the library, whereas my dad said he might have spent 2 or 3 hours a night on homework, and then the rest he would be at clubs and meetings and trying to better Bloomington the best that he could with his friends. So I would say our Kelly experiences in the beginning were different, but hopefully after this semester, after working very hard, I will get in, and our experiences in the business school will begin to become more similar. Second, because of the fact that he was a direct admit, he pledged a fraternity here his fall semester, and because I was not a direct admit, I was told by my dad to wait until spring semester to pledge a fraternity, which is what I'm doing right now. And when he was in a fraternity here, he pledged Sigma Alpha Mu, which is SAMI, and his chapter, which means the people that were in the house previous to him, was about 8 kids, and his pledge class was 12 kids, which means his pledge class outnumbered the amount of people in the house. So although the Greek life tends to be a dominant society where the people are trying to control you, when he was here it wasn't like that for him, because it was actually more of a passive relationship between him and the guys in the house, and they got along together well because there weren't that many of them. However, with my experience in pledging right now, there's about 120 kids, and my pledge class is 7, which is the complete opposite of his experience here with Greek life. However, they're both great experiences. And although I'm in a more dominant society right now with the brothers in the house, I realize that they're just trying to prepare me to be a member of their house. And although they might not realize that they're being dominant because they're just trying to better my understanding of the house and help me fit in, it is a kind of dominant society, and I'm in a dominant group there. However, it's going to end up being a good thing overall, because once I'm initiated and go through the process, it will become more of a passive and open relationship between me and the brothers in the house. And finally, to cap off the interview highlight, we talked about the basketball experience that he had, and the security back in the day was not good at all, and him and his friends would sneak into Assembly Hall and watch mostly all their practices from the top balcony and hear what Bob Knight said to the players, and they never knew. And this was definitely a dominant figure, Bob Knight. As we know, he was very hard on the players. He was a phenomenal coach, but he was a dominant figure, and he would hear what he had to say, and he watched the practices. And my experiences is different in the basketball because security is very tight. They lock all the doors. It's very, very hard to get into Assembly Hall when they're practicing and watch them. Nearly impossible. And our coach is Tom Crean, and he's more of a passive figure, and he's a nicer coach. He talks instead of screams at the players. He gets a personal relationship that isn't brutal on them, and it's not as dominant and it's not as uptight as the atmosphere Bob Knight brought to Indiana. But both guys are great coaches, and me and my dad had a lot of fun talking about the differences in basketball because we both love that, as I know Professor Metz loves as well. And so the three things, just to recap what we talked about during the interview, was Kelly, our experiences, we talked about the fraternity in Greek life, and we talked about basketball. And this was a really great interview for me to learn about the differences and the cultures that he experienced and I experienced, and the similarities and differences and the groups that we were put in while we were here. And it was a great experience overall for me, and I'm glad I can share this with you guys, and thank you for listening.